We feel price is only an issue in the absence of value. If I make a mistake, which is inevitable, then I'm here to have that difficult conversation with the customer so that the crew on site can always be the superheroes of the day. Your resume says that you can do more, but I can't give it to you. You got to earn it.
Welcome back to Movified. I'm your host, Mark Hirschi, owner of Sam's Moving and Storage, located in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. And today I'm excited. We are hitting it up and sitting down with the National Sales Director of You Move Me, Derek Ryan, coming out from KC.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Typically we kind of get owners, we get different people in here, and, a lot of us, especially on the show, we talk about sales all the time, but to now have someone that we're going to sit down, I really kind of want to just get right into let's hit it right off. What is the one sales principle you swear by that turns browsers into bookers that you follow suit for at You Move Me?
I think that's easy. My mantra has always been for the last 8 years, be one for one. If you give everything you have and focus on this particular lead or this particular call, that's the only move you can book right now. That's the only customer you can talk to. You can't worry about the one that happened before or what's coming down the road. And, myself and everybody on my team, that's something that everybody is aligned with. Be one for one. Just focus on this one, do everything you can and follow the process. I think one of my favorite people to listen to in the entire world is Kobe Bryant's Mamba mentality. And he talks about falling in love with the process. And I truly believe that if you have a good process and you follow the steps, the conversions will happen. That'll take care of itself. But if you're worried about how the last call went or, letting that affect your mood, at the end of the day, the customer you're on the phone with or the customer you're talking to, they only actually care about their move. They don't want to hear all the things you've done in the past or how great you are. They really care, how are you going to make my move special? And so you ask, kind of what do I hold true? And I'm going to make this customer feel like they're the most important person in the room, in the world, that I want to make sure their move goes well. But I truly believe that too. I truly want to figure out what that customer needs that's going to make our service and myself different than what they might hear from somebody else.
What about the follow-up process? Because, okay, that one for one, I get it. You know what? Mr. Jones is on the phone and I'm not thinking about the previous call that maybe went sideways or, they wanted me to do something as part of the move, or maybe it was a great success on that last sale. And I'm not thinking about what I'm doing for lunch afterwards. I am focusing one-on-one with this customer, right? Mr. Jones, this is who I'm talking to. But then he wants to follow up. He wants to call back. He has his objections. He wants to check with his wife and everything. I get to the next call. How does that follow-up process then go? Because, now I'm supposed to think of the next customer, but now I'm thinking, okay, I got to make sure that I'm checking back in with Mr. Jones. Is there a notes process? How does that process go within your organization?
Yeah. So we never let 48 hours go by without talking to that customer. Now, where we found a lot more success in the follow-up process is we ask for the follow-up appointment while we're still on the phone. So what that looks like is, one, agreeing with the customer. Most decisions at my house go through two parties as well. So we never want the customer to feel pressured that they do want to talk to a spouse or they do want to, but getting to the root of that objection is super important. So asking, hey, Mark, I understand all decisions go through two parties at my house as well, but they weren't here to hear everything that we're going to do on this move. What do you think their biggest question is going to be? I just want to make sure you have the answers so that when they ask, you know exactly what to say. And then getting to the bottom line, which 90% of the time is going to be price. But if we know that that's the real objection and they're passing the negativity to the spouse who isn't there because they're nice people, genuinely, most people are nice people, then we say, perfect. Well, when are you going to have a chance to talk to that spouse? Is it tonight? Is it tomorrow? Is it okay if I give you a call around 3:00 tomorrow? My schedule is pretty busy and I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk to you again. And if you've done a good job of building rapport and connecting with that customer, we've seen a drastic difference in the answer rate on that follow-up call. The key is if you're going to set a follow-up appointment, you have to call at that time. And I use my iPhone, and you'll see a million reminders on my phone where I say, "Hey Siri, remind me to call Mr. Jones at 3 o'clock on Tuesday." She's doing it right now. And so that has become vital in the success of the follow-up, is making sure that we do call. The other thing that we like to do is we do all of our estimates virtually. So we're no longer in everybody's house like we used to, but we send them, at the end of the day, if you felt like it was a really good appointment and a really good conversation and someone you really feel like is a very warm lead, I tell all my guys, send them a text message, thanking them for their time, really excited to follow up with you tomorrow. Like, send them a confirmation that they agreed to follow up with us. And, I always ask one thing. I said, just before you make your decision, let me know where we stand. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we're not only the right service, but we fit all the right things that you want out of this move.
I like the concept of, we want to make sure that we fit and we align with what you're looking for out of this move as like a condition when you have people on the phone.
We feel price is only an issue in the absence of value. So if they're only asking you about the price, then we missed a connection with them. We missed what they were really looking for, because people are willing to, everybody wants their move at the least expensive rate possible. No one wants to overspend, but they're willing to pay for a service they feel like has value.
What about those naysayers that turn around and go, okay, well, I just lost to You Move Me Again in my local area. And I found out that they gave 25, 30% off what their actual hourly cost was. I mean, that is a massive margin discount to, the competitor that's next door offering the same type of service, same type of quality, maybe even more Google reviews than You Move Me. But your sales office is, almost dropping their pants on discounts.
Yeah, I would say we deal with that a lot. Like, we're on the other side of that. We're on the where someone says, "Well, they quoted me this and you're way higher." And at the end of the day, if you only give them price to go on, if you haven't made the connection, then you're always going to be held to a number on a piece of paper. And you know, I would say there's three types of customers. I want it the absolute cheapest. I have a budget and I don't care what it costs. I want it done right. Well, I don't care what it costs. I want it done right. Those are always closing. We're always getting those because we know how to connect with the customer. The ones that we have the biggest opportunity is the budget. I have 3,000. I don't have 5,000. And so if you can work with me and get a service that works within, whether it's, the customer packing or moving boxes to the garage or whatever it might be. But I'll be honest, like, we're just never going to be the company that, oh, we'll do it for $100. Like, that's just not who we are. We value our teams and our training and, our trucks. And, there is a certain price that we stand by because that's a standard of how well our guys do. But I think the biggest opportunity is in that budget one. If I can come down 10% and you come up a little bit because you genuinely feel like you trust me as the person that's going to plan your move, we tend to close those, 65% of the time.
Before we ever started using a moving CRM, someone asked me, could you 10x what you're doing right now with the current systems and processes you have in place? And I said no. And so he was like, well, then you need to just pull the trigger on the software. And then I saw Smart Moving and it was game over.
Austin joined thousands of moving owners on Smart Moving in 2021. Since then, he's more than doubled his business.
And I always compare Smart Moving to Apple products. It's just so simple, so easy to use. And that's really what's allowed my team to scale and now have 2 branches. And last year we scaled Central Coast Moving over 50% growth.
If you're ready to turn your moving company into a machine that drives profit, not chaos, try Smart Moving.
What are some of those key signature questions that your sales staff are asking so that you become more in tune, that relationship gets built with the customers?
Yeah, there's a couple that are pretty standard. I would say, number one, you're 80% more likely to close somebody if you can make them smile or laugh. And, so one of the very cheesy but ways to do that in an icebreaker form at the very beginning of the call is, so I hear we're moving. And the customer tends to smile because they're like, yeah, that's why I called you. And it really kind of breaks their wall down. And then, the most important question to me is, how did you hear about us? The answer really isn't what I'm looking for. It's so I know where to go with the next part of the call. So, most people say, well, I was searching online and I saw you. And like, oh, you saw some of our reviews? What's some of the things that stood out to you that prompted the phone call? And then I can start to talk about why those reviews are 5-star, why we have, over 8,000 on our Google page in Kansas City. If they say that they had a friend refer them, then that's an easy one. Like, oh, well, we did a great job with them. That's why they told you to call. But finding out how they heard about us, or what prompted the phone call, or what prompted the click is really the first step in figuring out what's going to be important to them. Most people, when they're searching online, they're going to get bombarded. And if you're like me, if you search something online, like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be clicking. I just start clicking. And, the first person that's nice to me, that talks to me as I'm a person, those are the people that I end up having a conversation with. I always share, I chose my trash company at my house because of how they answered the phone. Trash companies are basically all the same. You got to think that the pricing is going to be pretty similar no matter who you talk to. And the person answered the phone and said, thanks for calling Casey Disposal, where we talk trash. And that resonated with me, being it from a sales, and the lady was super nice and friendly, didn't put me on a hold right away, just talked to me about why I was calling. And I said, I just moved, and she congratulated me on buying a new house and what prompted the move, and really just started talking to me about me. And so I've taken that and felt the same with moving, is that if you can find out why they're moving or what they're calling for, and connect in some way with that, then you're already a leg up on the people that just throw an hourly rate at somebody and want to see if the price sticks.
I like that a lot. I used to, a lot of the times back in the day, I used to always make sure that I was, especially when I was on a phone call, was always trying to make somebody smile, right? Whether it was, and we take payment, we take cash, Visa, MasterCard, we just do not accept Monopoly money anymore. Right. So it was
Yeah.
like, and then it always got someone like laughing on the other side, and always some type of story coming up there, which I like. Now, I mean, let's back it up, Derek, because I kind of hammered you with a couple questions off the beaten path here, because I get excited when it comes to sales, and there's so many different, like, to me, you always, you have this foundation of the sales call, right? And then to each different company, they have the type of different sales scripts that go into play, how you manage the calls, from, AI chatbots to in-person to call centers to, going out to see the customers. But, let's back it right up. What got you involved? Like, give me a little bit of history on Derek Ryan and his life story of what led you to be part of You Move Me's, national sales center.
I was in the restaurant world. I ran bars and restaurants in downtown Kansas City, and I left the company and went and opened a new restaurant. And about 6 months in, which, if you know anything about restaurants, you're never going to find success in 6 months of opening a new concept. And so one day they walked in and they said, we're not where we thought we would be. And the ownership had never opened a restaurant before, but they said, you're the most expensive person, and we think that the cook can run the day-to-day. At that time I was 32 years old, and my wife was pregnant with our third kid, and oh shoot, I didn't have a backup plan. I never have a backup plan. I feel like there's a great speech by Denzel Washington where he talks about falling forward. And so the owner of You Move Me, one of the owners, was a good friend from 25 years. And I really just came to talk to him about, what do I do with my life? Like, I thought that this was going to be the thing, and I was good at it. And, he said, as a friend, he said, look, while you figure it out, we got training tomorrow if you want to pick up some hours, moving some furniture. And that was little over 8 years ago. So I started in the truck. The first year I was with You Move Me, I was in the trucks. I was here every morning at 6 a.m. I was doing the thing. And, I think the best gift he ever gave me was, your resume says that you can do more, but I can't give it to you. You got to earn it with the guys. And so I showed up every day. I was the guy in the back of the room stretching in the morning, and the young guys would make fun of me. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I am sore from yesterday. I can't just do it again. And so there was some stretching and some warming up that I had to do. About 10 months in, they were looking for a full-time on-site estimator in Kansas City. And so I interviewed for it, got the job, and really that first year took a lot of sales background and kind of brought it in. I mean, I'm not anywhere near, even the things I've shared in this call, like I didn't learn all that, but through failure. I was not good. My training for being an on-site estimator was about 30 minutes at 7:30 in the morning. And they said, get out there. You got 5 estimates today. Go see what you can do. And really leaned on the experience of being in the trucks to figure out how to do it. There was a simple little math equation that we came up with that how long this should take. The thing that was kind of blindsiding or unexpected was when you become the sales guy, even though you came from working side by side with a lot of those guys, they now think they don't think very much of you. You told the customer that we would do X, Y, and Z, and it took some difficult conversations with some of the operations team, and honestly took them going out with me to a few estimates to see that I'm not putting us in dire situations or telling customer like I'm telling the customer the same thing every time.
He told me he had an elevator, and it wasn't my intention to put you on that 4-flight walk down.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I think really endearing myself and being friends with some of the top operators in the business and like doing special things for the guys, like showing up on site and helping for a little bit, or buying lunch for a crew that was middle of summer and it's a big move and they don't have a lunch break time that works, and just showing up on site with some pizza for them and saying, hey, thank you guys for doing this. Once I started to do that with some of the top operators and the top movers, and the trust was built that like, hey, he's not out here trying to hurt us or trying to screw us over. That's where they started sending the message down the lines that we're not promising that we can jump over the balcony and catch the couch on its way down. That's not what we're doing, but it took some time to get there. I think at the end of the day, once you realize that the common ground is that we're all trying to win, and if I make a mistake, which is inevitable, that I'm here to have that difficult conversation with the customer so that the crew on site can always be the superheroes of the day.
Being found on the second page of Google is literally like having a billboard in the middle of the desert. Your mama ain't gonna see it. No one's gonna see it. You're on the second page of Google, no one's gonna call, no one's gonna book. Here is the deal. If your business is not ranking on the top of Google, that means your competitors are going to be stealing your customers every single day. So at Rotate Digital, we don't play any guessing games. We use data-driven SEO strategies to make sure Google finds you first, so that these Google searches turn into your customers, not your competitors' customers. How do we do it? We do it through AI-driven keyword optimization, exclusive blog networks, backlinking strategies, and honestly, the secret stuff, the proprietary lead attribution software. So what do you get as a result? You get not only good marketing, but now you get clarity into what is bringing you more revenue. So if that's something you want to do, you want to make sure your leads find you and not your competition, go ahead and go to rotatedigital.com, schedule a call, and we'll help you take your business to the top of Google.
If you're considering Snowball, just do it.
Snowball creates done-for-you referral programs for moving companies so you can turn happy customers into new revenue without lifting a finger. And the results speak for themselves.
In less than a year, we've collected over 2,000 referrals.
We generated over $200,000 of revenue that cost about $5,000 to do it.
I believe we had 4 or 5 the very first day.
The companies winning with Snowball are the ones that already care about their customers. We just help turn that into new business through human outreach and customer nurturing.
Snowball is part of the arsenal of tools that I recommend to my clients because it works.
Yeah, which I love. I guess, for me, and I've heard this type of example in this situation, and I used to always say, if you work in the restaurant industry and you're a server, start off in the kitchen. Understand the ingredients, understand how it's made. It's going to make you a fantastic server when you're out there talking to customers because you understand what goes on behind the scenes. in the moving industry, it's also that same type of concept where I look at it going, you have these sales consultants that are going out there, they've been taught the script, they've sat down and done some training, but they never really spent a day in the trucks. Now, this is all fine and dandy, listening to your story. This is what you did. You started in the trucks, you kind of worked your way up. Does that training, does this experience of what you've had led to how you train new salespeople? Are you also going, hey, listen, you're spending a day on the truck? Because like that doesn't typically happen, right? Like, that's the manager has done all this, and this is why they're in management position, because they've had this experience. They've done, worked on the trucks. They've talked to the different sales. They have the experience. But then you hire new salespeople underneath you, and that doesn't happen anymore. You're like, wow, I don't have time to send you on the truck. So we got to get you on the call. We have a call center. Like, here's your script. Are you trying to implement any of that with the sales staff that you have now?
Yeah, I don't. It is a struggle. I think everybody on my team, I'm focused more on the long distance moving now as opposed to the local moving, which is great. But I think everybody that levels up, like that does the virtual estimates or the long distance moving estimates, like we do take them out to a job so they can see the guys in action. I think that the hardest part from a sales component is the things you have to account for are the two variables that you can never control, which is the customer's preparedness for the move and the attitude of the crew that day. And the attitude of the crew can be determined by a million factors, right? If they have one guy that's late for the day and it puts them behind, then the crew's, not in the best mindset when they get there. Or if it's 105 degrees in the summer, that's just a tough day. Like it doesn't matter if you're hydrated, if you're prepared, you have the best crew in the world. When it's that hot, like it's a challenge. And the same in the extreme cold. Like we in Kansas City, we like to say that if you don't like the weather, wait till tomorrow. Because we have the extreme of all conditions. It was 65 degrees here a week ago, and then it snowed on Wednesday. And then it's warm again last weekend, but windy. And so there's a million things that factor into how the crew feels. And our job as salespeople is to tee them up for success. We want to plan for an average crew on an average day that everybody on our staff can get this move done with normal output of effort, not the best crew on the best day with the best conditions. And man, the customer had Gatorade fountains for them and bought them lunch and breakfast. And, it was 70 degrees and it was just the perfect day. Like those days don't happen very often. And so, for us, it's just being a part of the team. I think the hardest part in sales is that sometimes you feel alienated from the team, that you're kind of a solo act and like your job is to book moves, but nobody really tells you when they go great. They only let you know when they go poor. And so I encourage all the people on my team to know the movers, to talk to the movers, to say hello to the movers, just be a face and a name that people know. And always, we have a difficult job because we're auditioning for all these customers to get their business. But physically, we have an easy job because we sit in the office and we take calls and we book customers, but we're not the ones actually out lifting and doing the work. And so I think it's important that they go out and see those things happen. We pad and protect all the furniture, but if you've never seen it, you don't really understand how that accounts for time. And, if you have 150 pieces of furniture, that's a lot of padding and protecting to make sure it gets there safe. And you do have to go out and see it. And I think it's important to take salespeople out on site at the beginning of their career. And I think it's important to kind of introduce them to that every couple months. One thing I do is I'll try to schedule like a lunch with an agent where we're going to do a review, but reality, we're going out to drop in at a job that they booked and kind of evaluate and say, hey, you had estimated it at this. How do you feel about it? Let's talk to the crew. Let's carry a couple boxes out to the truck. Like, I'm not able to get in on the piano anymore at 40 years old. Like, that's a bad idea for me to try and lift that piano up the stairs. But I can carry 15 boxes while I'm there and help in that regard. And so I do challenge my team to stop by on those jobs and see if there's anything that they can help with, or ask for the feedback. I think so many times, like, you're going to hear it from 10 people when a move isn't estimated correctly. But even the ones that go okay, like, ask the crew leader, like, hey, how was that estimate? Is there anything I could have done better? Is there any additional information you would have liked to see? And I think just continually looking for a new way to put notes in there for the crew so that they feel confident when they go into a job.
UMoveMe has franchises coast to coast. So what would you say is the secret sauce to keeping sales consistent, where every market's got its own vibe? Like, I've had conversations with moving companies, that have franchises all over, and to have, you could be in KC and your hourly rate's this price. You could be in Vancouver, the hourly rate's that price. You could be in Seattle, it's totally different as well too. Different types of mentality, different types of people that are living there in those communities. How does that work? Like, is there a secret sauce to this? Is there some type of structure that when you're talking to all these different franchises, like, this is how the sales need to go?
Yeah, I think for us, it's been the introduction of the virtual estimate, utilizing technology to standardize how we estimate the move. So, the 750 pounds per hour that each guy can do is the same in Kansas City as it is in Charlotte. But I think it is important, if you want to be really good at sales, you have to know your markets. And ultimately, I take calls for all UMoveMe franchises. And one of the things that I try to do is, and it's super simple, but like, I have everybody's weather forecast on my weather app. Like, on the iPhone, the weather, like, I have everybody's city on there that I talk to, because I don't want to say, are you enjoying the weather? And then you guys are getting pounded with snow and you're like, no, I hate this. Um, and then I think it's also one thing we do a really good job of is introducing the franchise partners to our sales team, where we have kind of a Q&A, and some of it's work and tactical and things about Cincinnati, and some of it's just like about the person who's in that location.
In your call center, do you separate it? Like, are you large enough where you say, okay, this group is in charge of the East Coast, this group is in charge of the West Coast?
No, everybody does calls for everything. And it's, I think with the people that are really successful do take the time to kind of know a little bit about each market. Someone that lives in Pennsylvania is a different customer than someone in Oklahoma City. But if you don't know how to connect with that customer, then you might lose. And the reality is they're calling UMoveMe because they saw something locally that prompted the call or the search. And it's important for us as salespeople to connect with them where they are, and understand what's going on in those parts of the world. Or someone in California is a different type of customer than someone in Miami. And so it's important to know those differences and be able to connect with them on that level.
How does it work within your CRM system when you have, I'm going to use Seattle, Kansas, and let's say Miami. You have 3 different locations, 3 different hourly price points. How does that work in the CRM to know, like, does it automatically, when you type in that city, pick up what that hourly rate is? Everybody's supposed to memorize this. How does that look like?
No, so there's a couple things. Number one is our CRM does organize it to what market it goes into. So if your zip code starts in Kansas City, like, it'll sort to that market. And then everybody's hourly rates are inputted. So when you go through, you have those specific rates for each location, and we train our people to build the quote in that market. Now, the other part of that is that they're pretty similar. There's not like, as much as we have 22 locations, there's not 22 different price points. There's kind of tiers to the level of business and kind of where they charge.
Who dictates that pricing?
The franchise partners. So they set their own pricing. There's things that go into it, but I would say, when in doubt, we use kind of the highest, which Kansas City's across the board one of the higher hourly rates that we charge just as an established business. And so I feel like if I'm unsure about where this goes, I know that if I use that pricing, I'm covered everywhere. And, basically, in my rapport and discovery with the customer, I'm trying to figure out those things of like, let me get the right pricing for this customer. There's not a good, we have what's called a green book, which is something that we put together that has each market and what their hourly rates are, and what, like, you can go to one location and click on that tab and it'll tell you what to do. And, there's also differences in each market as far as like what, if they feel comfortable doing a piano or a baby grand piano, or if they don't do that, if they do packing or don't do packing, if they have boxes or don't have boxes. There's, Charlotte's a great example where it's a Commonwealth state, which means that they have different rules and regulations that they can and can't fluctuate pricing on. Whereas Kansas City, you can basically do whatever you want from a pricing standpoint. Portland, in Oregon, there's a lot of really strict tariffs, and in Washington there's not. And so knowing what side of the state line you're on when Portland services both sides is super important. And, that just takes a lot of reps and a lot of education and a lot of talking to the FP to know where we need to be at to make it make sense for the customer.
Someone getting fired when they're flipping that script and giving some wrong pricing. What's happened in those situations?
Are you a mover looking to make an impact? Discover Moving Letters AI and join the ML Plus Club today. Elevate your customer engagement with the personal touch of handwritten letters.
If you want to take your company to that next level, it's the only way to subscribe. If you're doing anything but Moving Letters AI, you need to get on it. So it's going to take your business to that next level. You're going to see an increase in that revenue. Let's go.
I highly recommend using this company. They're amazing to work with. They even send you an email on how much work they're producing for you.
Don't miss out. Join the revolution and start making moves that matter.
Put a golden damn ticket in there with Moving Letters AI.
Difficult conversation. Not in the sense of firing, but like whether you need to call the customer back and tell them you made a mistake and update the pricing correctly. Or I would say the biggest thing on my team is learn from the mistake. If they're going to go ahead and make it happen so that the customer's not upset, like, don't make that mistake again. Understand what you did wrong and put that in the Rolodex of, hey, don't do that again. Which I've had plenty of those. I think as a leader, it's important that I'm able to share a lot of that with my team because, oh, nope, don't do that. I've done that, and this is how it turns out. We don't want to go down that road. But I think our whole system, all of you, MoveMe, does a pretty good job of communicating and, finding solutions when someone might have, undersold what they should have.
Now, we just came out of winter, more or less. We're kicking into the spring. What are some of the tactics that MoveMe does to overcome that winter hump, as we like to call it? Obviously summer's always booming and winter kind of things slow down, at least when it gets colder out in those states. What are some of those tactics that MoveMe has done to get those calls, get those sales in?
Yeah, discounts are always popular, but not because of the discounting amount. Like, we look at it as we want to help everybody we possibly can in the winter so we can keep our teams working. It's a lot easier to hire 15 people in the spring and summer than it is to hire 50. And so if we can keep those guys working through the winter and still trim some of the fat, the guys that, aren't bought in, that, if we can keep them working through the winter months, then everybody's going to boom in the spring and summer. And it's really, we don't look at it as discounting dollars as much as marketing dollars. If we can help you, you're going to refer somebody. If we can get a Google review, then it was worth the little bit of a discount. But I think it's important to not just solely focus on discounted services, because then you are a discounted service, and that's not what we want to build. It's just finding a compromise with the customer of, I know you wanted to be here. I can get you to here. Let's make this thing happen. But a lot of that is in the discovery. But our owners feel like if we can help absolutely everybody and take market share in the winter months, then we are, we always like to say we're a people business. We just happen to move people's furniture. And as you know, in the summertime, they don't care sometimes what the price is. They just say, I have to move on this date because that's when closings are happening. And the first company that says that they can do it, they're going to book with them. It's the same as the HVAC world. And like, hey, in the summertime when the air conditioner breaks, the team that can fix it first, that's who I'm going to go with. I don't care if it's $500 more. I just can't have my house this hot for another week. And so for us, we use the winter months as training times, and let's do everything. Let's not. We also know, and we share with RFPs that there's a certain amount of fixed costs each month, that if you can pass that you're not losing money. And so until we get to that point, we're taking every job that we possibly can. And then in the summertime, that's when we go, because we have the largest teams, and we're sending out the most trucks in the busy months.
To get those type of solutions and have those numbers in place, having the right KPIs and sales metrics are huge. Was that something as a trait that you had to learn? And what is like the number one sales metric that you follow and live by with your team?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Had to learn. Was not something that came naturally. As a sales guy, I'm very much like, look at everything through a positive lens. Like, oh, it'll work out. We'll get it. We'll figure it out. I think the biggest KPI that changed was obviously conversion is important, but I also feel like average job size is super important, because to me, average job size just shows that you're selling the value of the service. And if your average job size is $800, I'm 100% confident that I could have sold every one of those jobs at $1,200, because I would have found out what that key was to getting it. So, even as I'm looking for top salespeople in the organization, conversion is an indicator of what you're doing on the phone. But the average job size tells me the story of if you're building value or are you just jumping to a discount to make your conversion look good.
Yeah, which totally becomes a big problem too. Right.
And I think you have to
what
have all
what
of it.
happens? What happens in that situation? I mean, you're going to get people that sit behind the desk. I remember I hired a fantastic woman in the industry that was very good at sales. She helped create our international division, and within half a year, she was doing close to $500,000 in sales, and we're talking like during COVID. The problem is that as you started going down to the root of, are we making money off this? She was supposed to be running off A tariff. She was running off a B tariff. And that B tariff was whatever she was making up, whatever she was using at her previous job. And those hourly rates, those kind of, those pricing structures that she was going off of was not making us any money, but she was booking a lot. So when you're dealing with your sales agents that are on the phone, they're booking, but it's like discount. They're going, hey, great, I booked like 50 jobs today, but they're just throwing discounts. What are those kind of conversations like, and how do you reframe that so that they are not just hitting the discounts right off the bat?
Yeah, I think as a sales leader, you have to do call reviews with your people, and you have to do them often. More often in the beginning with a greener salesperson, and like, I think so many times we miss the role playing part of the training a lot. Like, hey, here's the script, answer the call, say this, you're supposed to book jobs, do that. And what I found more success in is like, we have to review, we have to role play, and the more that you can instill, like, we're going to use the script, but I want you to memorize this in your words. And we're going to role play it countless amount of times till you feel comfortable saying it. I always say the reason that I'm seen as a sales expert compared to somebody else is just because I know what I'm going to say. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say. And that's just through repetition. Like I've just done it. Like I've done over 15,000 estimates, and I've booked over $18 million. So I just have so many more reps. So let's take the reps. You said, you're talking about restaurant. I always said that to my new servers that if it's going to take you 10 tables to get comfortable, then let's knock out the 10 tables in the first hour. Like, don't make a week's worth of your 10 tables. Like, let's get after it. I always tell agents, let me spare you the suspense. You're going to screw up. It's going to happen. We can fix it. Let's talk about it. But I think the important thing, in the same as we talked about operations, is you have to do call reviews, but you have to find good ones and opportunity ones. And you got to say, okay, what was different about this? And, I keep saved on my computer a number of good ones. And, we share those in our one-on-one, like, hey, what do you notice here? What do you notice that Dana did? What do you notice that Seth did? And, as much as Dana, Seth, and myself are the top salespeople, like we do it a little bit different, each of us. And that's just from experience in the past. Like I'm a big sports guy. So if I see something sports related, man, we're talking about sports. That's how I'm connecting with the customer and I'm bringing it back to the sale. But Seth is not a sports guy. And so teaching him, and it took me time to like listen to some of his calls and say, hey, here's how I would change that. Here's what I would say different. And eventually he started to listen. We used to kind of all sit next to each other in the sales center, and he'll say like, the year that I was sitting next to you, I learned so much just by listening to you on the phone. And then he started to pick things up. And when someone's struggling, like you said, like there's so many times that a new person comes in and they set the world on fire with their conversion, and then you look at it, you're like, well, hold on a second. At the end of the day, we can't forget the real scoreboard, which is the business has to make money. And let's not get caught up in conversion and average jobs. So like we have to do all those things, and that just tells a story. But let's not lose sight of what we're really here for, and it's to serve our customers and serve our guys that are doing the moves. And if we do that with integrity, then the business will grow and the business will make money.
What was one of the biggest wins and biggest losses that you found last year that happened, especially in the sales area? And then like, did you notice anything that was going on with regards to what worked maybe a couple of years ago that didn't work? Give me a win and give me a loss of last year.
Yeah, I would say big win for last year is fell into a new commercial partner. Someone called the national sales center and was looking for help in Indianapolis, and the sales agent actually was like, hey, DR, do you want to call this person and talk to him about what we can do? And I noticed that the email signature said Chicago, not Indianapolis. So I asked, what do you guys do? And it turned into over $600,000 of jobs last year for all of our markets. So that was probably my biggest win is seizing the opportunity when you notice that the job locally was like $4,500, but seeing the opportunity, that's probably the biggest win. And that was our first real like nationwide commercial partner. Biggest opportunity, not scaling my team. I think the identity crisis of being the top sales guy and when to delegate and when to bring people along. And when you think everything is under control, and then one person steps out and it kind of crumbles everything, you realize that you're not maybe developing at the level you should consistently, so that you don't have those heartbreaking moments where you just can't handle it. I think the biggest probably biggest opportunity for most moving companies is that when someone calls you that wants to move and you just don't have the people or the trucks and you can't do it, and you feel like, damn, like that's a ticket that we could have picked up that we just can't do. And you basically are giving it to a competitor because you haven't got to the size you need to be. For us in sales, it's we have more leads than people we are quoting. We're only connecting with 85% of these leads coming in. So what can I do as a leader to help connect
What
with
a
more of
horrible
them?
problem.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, it's good and bad. I get it for sure. But to have so many leads that are coming in, they can't even keep up with is a great problem to have. You just need to fulfill them.
Yeah. And I think I'm always, I hold on to maybe a little bit too tight. Like, well, that person hasn't quite earned the opportunity yet. And in reality, like, maybe that's just me wanting them to feel some of the pain I felt early in my career before they get the golden ticket. But, at the same time, I think it's just being more present with everyone on the team to know where you might find someone that can level up and start kind of feeding them along the way, as opposed to waiting till you have to have somebody and then that person kind of shooting stars it. Like, they were really good at what they started out at, which is why they got the opportunity, but then the opportunity was too much and they kind of fizzled out, and you wasted a lot of time trying to get that person to go when they weren't ready for what you had to offer.
Hi, I'm Mark Hirschi with Salmon's Moving and Storage. Today, I want to talk about Tighten Up training. Why? Because this is Netflix grade quality training. It's not those old videos and VHSs that you got hiding in your office somewhere. It's online, it's easy to use, they're short videos, but they get to the point. My new employees, these guys run through these training programs, there's tests at the end, and they're coming out going, oh, I'm ready to rock. So if you haven't checked out Tighten Up training yet, get a demo done. Get on board. Guess what else is there? Online portals for my sales staff. Can you believe it? These guys can learn how to overcome objections and book more leads today. So what are you waiting for? Go check out Tighten Up training today.
Well, don't worry, everybody. Derek's got counseling appointments set up so that he can overcome some of these issues that he has and these trust issues. You guys will make it. Those that are listening, he'll let you have those sales. Just don't screw up. This is great. Now, when you do have, and I kind of want to finalize on here, when you do have these highs and lows, when you look at goal planning for the next year, when you're looking at 2025, how are you overcoming these objections to go, this is next year? Like, are you looking at that commercial job going, okay, this worked. Okay, team, like, get out and do it. Like, go find more, get those cold calls going, and then you're building like an SOP on how to handle that kind of job. Is it just like a one-off? Like, where do you take the team to go, okay, like, we could build sales in this direction by doing this, or you stay back until you fine-tuned everything? Like, where does that tipping point come, especially when you're goal setting for the following year?
Yeah, I think you have to look in the mirror realistically, like live in the real world. Like, where are our opportunities? For us, it's smaller moves going long distance. So people are still moving. So who's a company that we can partner with? Because we're getting the lead. We just don't have a great way to service that customer. So recognizing where we are struggling and like find someone that does it really well and see if they can help along the way. With the commercial side of things, like, it is cold calling. And, traditionally salespeople aren't like, when you're getting inbound sales calls, like, outbound sales is not natural. And so maybe it is finding someone that feels more comfortable in that realm. And so we got together at the beginning of the year and we brainstormed like the biggest verticals, like in your dream world, like who would call us for a move? And, said, okay, well, you take this part of it and see if you can make some connections. And, here's the avenues that I've used that worked. I've looked at the company that we work with and looked on LinkedIn at similar companies. And I started sending messages every day. Ask them for referrals. Like, I know we do a great job helping you. Is there anybody else that you work with that might be interested in hearing what we have to say? But I think it's also not limiting the belief that, there's other opportunities out there. And I think for me, it was, there's people in your contact list that you haven't thought could help. And really, like, hey, I don't know if your company would be interested, but do you know anybody in this company that might be the person I would talk to? I just messaged, is a friend from 10 years ago and still had his number in my phone. And he's a VP at the company he works for and has since moved from Kansas City to Omaha. And I was just going through my contacts and I saw his name and I just texted him. I said, hey, you're still with this company. Who would I talk to with your team that does, employee relocations? And, we had a short conversation. Hey man, how are you? How's the family? Da, 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 da. But like, he's like, let me send you over who does that with us. And, I've been with You Move Me for 8 years and I've never reached out to him. And, so it's just kind of like looking internally and be like, who do I know that might have a connection for me? And also just do all the people that I conversate with on a regular basis, know where I work and know what I do.
That to me is always huge. The amount of times that I go on someone's Facebook post or like Facebook page or LinkedIn page, or if they even have a LinkedIn page and they're in the sales, if not like the owner of the moving company, and there's nothing about them. I've ripped into several people where I'm like, can you please show me on this page that tells me that you even own a moving company or that you belong to a moving company? There is nothing. So how can you get any kind of referrals from family members or all those people that are, seeing when you post something that go, oh, I'm going to take a minute and catch up with Johnny there, and see what he's been up to. And there's nothing about moving. And they could have had 5 friends that are moving.
It sounds my favorite thing to do when I have time off or time to do, I love to golf. And last year I made a conscious effort that when I did go golfing, I wore my You Move Me hat. And, traditionally I wear my bright colored shirt with my matching hat and, I just thought, man, when I go to the golf course, these are all people that are spending extra money in their life to do a hobby. Like I put business cards in my golf bag. I put business cards in my car. I put them, like, I purposely put business cards everywhere I could be because I never want to miss an opportunity. And, it does happen where I wear my You Move Me hat to the golf course and, someone's like, oh, you work at You Move Me? Like, yeah. He's like, oh, I got a buddy that needs to move soon. Like, here's my card, give him my number. And you just never know. I think it's always looking for the opportunity to sell. If you're a great salesman, then you're always selling. If you walk around with your family and you have your You Move Me hat on, someone might stop you. My favorite, it's been a few years, but like we did a 4th of July parade in Kansas City. And like the next week I was doing an estimate for a guy moving to Texas. And he's like, oh, I saw your truck in the parade. So it's like, never miss an opportunity to put your name out there. Even Mark reaching out to you through, hey, I told Prob like, hey, I would love to do a podcast this year. And he introduced us and it was like, I just want people to know that we're here. I want people to know who we are. And, I want to get our name out there
This won't be airing, so don't worry. Like we're going to keep KC tight. You guys are doing well enough in there. Prob's already told me that you guys are killing it there in Kansas City. So it's fun. And it's funny that you say that, as you were chatting, it always makes me think, especially, 2 bald guys talking about barbershops. It's also an untouched area. If your wife goes to get her hair done, get her to sport one of the company hats or get her to give a couple business cards, because those hairstylists are spending sometimes upwards to 3-4 hours learning about your life and learning about all kinds of stuff. And they're going to be tons of referrals could be in that place, right? Of someone that's moving and taking and needs some type of moving services.
I think too, like telling your people that too, like my number 2 lives all the way on the other side of the city. And so like outside of work, our paths don't cross a whole lot. But like if he believes in what we're doing, like, hey, here's, I want you to wear this when you go out, or, we just had our annual kickoff, and I was in charge of the swag. And one of the things that I really like wanted to find was some like very good quality, like different brand, like not the traditional that we order from the guy who does printing on sweatshirts. Like I wanted to find a brand.
I mean, not Gildan.
Yeah. And so I did, and it's been really cool in the months since that every time we get on a call, like someone has on the hat that we did, or someone wears the hoodie to work. And like, to me, that just, we want people to be proud of where they work, and we want people to tell people where they work because they're excited about it. And I think utilizing your team and making sure that they feel that same way is really made a big difference. And as much as I might know 30 people that I can text right now that'll respond to me, like they know 30 that aren't the same. And so once you start to instill that in your sales team that, hey, talk about where you work, and does your family know where you work? And, then they start to believe a little bit, and then they start talking about it.
Share those company posts. When this podcast drops, Derek's going to reshare it. Movie's going to have it posted. And then it's like this total train effect of everybody that wants to listen to it. And what it does is it's going to bring more exposure to YouMoveMe, more exposure to the podcast. More people are going to want to listen. More people are going to reach out because they can see how fantastic their consultant team is to get your move taken care of. And
absolutely
understand your needs and align with that. So this is awesome, Derek. Thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Appreciate you inviting me to it. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been long overdue, and I find, especially as we're ramping up for the summertime, like there's a good couple nuggets in here that if you're listening to this, get your team on it. And if it's you answering those phone calls and doing those sales, and you're small, that you're handling all those hats, get on it. Like there's a lot of great automated ways to, build those templates and hit up all those LinkedIn clients that you potentially want to reach out to, or realtors. They're all there at your doorstep. And there's so many simple ways to make that happen. So hopefully you took away some of this information today and learned something. Derek, Ryan from YouMoveMe, it's been a pleasure. And for all of those, tune in next time and stay Movified. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, man.